Okay, and I do believe we are live. So welcome to Visionary Parenting, where we are sowing the seeds of success within us and within our children, transforming a generation to believe that they can be, do, and have anything that they desire. Visionary parents and within our children. Look at that screen coming through. 1 second. Anything that they desire. Visionary parents and within our children. Look at that screen coming through. 1 second. You can turn the sound off. Anything that they desire. Visionary parents and within our children. Look at that. There we go. Look at that technology just doing its thing. Once again, let me start again. Welcome. So we are sowing the seeds of success within us, within our children, transforming a generation to believe that they can be, do, and have anything that they desire. Visionary parenting is having powerful conversations with a variety of thought leaders, parenting experts, and parents who are taking the journey to empower themselves and their children to grow, thrive, and live abundant lives as defined by them. And today, Loyla Louvis is our special guest today. Now, she is a certified parenting and life coach and the founder of Mothers in Training. She helps eliminate frustration and exhaustion from the parenting journey so moms can enjoy the day-to-day of being a mother. So welcome, Loyla. It is a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Melanie. I really am looking forward to this conversation.
Me too, very much so. So to begin with, I'd just like to ask, what's your journey into becoming a parenting and life coach? What brought you down that path?
Melanie, I never had any intentions of being a parenting coach. Everybody has asked me, like, what parenting is the hardest thing you could ever do. Why on earth would you try to specialize in that field? And my answer is always the same. I really didn't intend to go into entrepreneurship or to become a professional. My plan was to raise my children. I have 4 children. My oldest is 34. My youngest is 21. I homeschooled them. My plan was to just get them to adulthood, to be contributing members of society, that they would have children. I would be a grandma. I would help educate those. That was my plan. And of course, such are the plans of mice and men. It did not go that way. And I realized that my youngest was going to be done with her education. And then what was I going to do? And I kind of looked in the rear view mirror of my life and looked at my journey, and I experienced a lot of suffering, abuse as a child that affected the way I grew up, affected the decisions I made, affected the choices I made in a spouse, and the way I parented early on. And I realized, like, okay, there's a problem here. This has got to be fixed. I promised myself I was never going to repeat the mistakes that were made in my childhood, and yet I was. And I kind of said, whoa, stop the clock on this. We have to fix this. I need to do some digging and research. Fast forward 20 years in my own therapy, people kept saying to me, Loyla, they kept thinking I was the therapist. And eventually, I became very friendly with other professionals in the field of psychology, who said, you need to do something with this. Everything in your background, everything in your DNA is all about helping moms raise their kids and have new insights about their parenting. And lo and behold, about 12 years ago, I became Mothers in Training.
Wow, that's amazing. And it is. I think it's quite a journey when we recognize that it's from our own kind of issues, from our own pain, through our own childhood traumas. And that's what's been in a lot of my conversations that I've been having with a lot of my guests. Childhood traumas has been a feature that comes up all the time about how it impacts us in our adult lives and how it impacts the way that we parent, the way that we do everything, basically. You know, it's amazing to recognize, you know, the impact that we have as parents. And so when we know what it's done to us as adults, then it makes us be even more aware, or it should make us be even more aware of how we're raising our children, if we have made the connection. A lot of the times we haven't made that connection. We don't recognize that it is, you know, a lot of the issues that may be occurring in our families stem from us. You know, us, we're the ones that are unwittingly, unknowingly creating, projecting, manifesting all of these traumas and dramas that have been buried deep within us. It's quite a journey to see that.
Yeah. And I think that, like, as I work with my own clients and, you know, chat with my group, my Facebook group, is that I see that even when moms, dads, parents are aware of what they want to change and are trying to be self-aware, sometimes there's this missing piece that can be like, boy, this dark cloud, which is, that our children are all different. And the way they experience life is very different from the way we're experiencing life as parents. So we may think we are communicating in a certain way, making certain changes, trying to be strategic, trying to change the past and break that generational line of you know, poor choices. Sometimes we just can't find the approach that works for that particular child. And of course, if you have multiple children, you already know from child to child, they are completely different human beings. And the way they want the way they interact is very different. So what I help moms do, and I primarily work with moms, I work with some dads too, but what I do is come alongside them and help them get a bird's eye view, a scientific lens, so to speak, into that particular child to understand the way they are viewing the world, the way they process information, and then tweak whatever it is they're trying to say, do, accomplish, so that it better fits that particular child.
Yeah, that's true. That's too many times we try to use the same approach for all of our children. A lot of times we have to recognize, well, we must recognize that every child is different, every child learns differently, every child interacts differently, and we can't use a blanket approach for all. You know, we do have to recognize what's happening for that particular child and their perceptions and their views, just in the same way that we have to recognize what's happening for us, our perceptions and our views, and why we have those perceptions and those views, you know, to try and unpick a lot of that. So yeah, that's fantastic. So how do you do this type of work? Is it in schools? Is it individual? Is it, how do people reach you and you know, connect and do that kind of work? How does that happen?
So my you know, my best work is one-on-one. So I offer, you know, customized coaching, meeting weekly, and really hearing those details. I often describe, when I get together with a client, I often describe it as, you know, if you've ever tried to put together 1,000-piece puzzle, it's like you have to dump all the pieces on the board, total madness and chaos. And then you look at the cover, right? You got to keep that cover in front of you because that's the final picture. And so you put that cover somewhere so you can see it. And then you need a strategy for how you're going to create order out of this chaos, right? So we know you find the corner pieces, and then you find the straight edges, and then you take all the middle pieces and you know, maybe organize them by color or shape or whatever the case may be. And so when I work with a client one-on-one, that's what we do. I get all the information, all the little pieces, and then look for themes, right? And then begin to create order and clarity and create solutions that are based on the bigger themes that keep coming up in the family, right? And there are themes. Sometimes we're too caught up in the day-to-day and overwhelmed to see the themes. So when I work one-on-one, this is what I'm doing, is helping a mom see the bigger picture, see the themes, and then create solutions that she can apply every time she sees a symptom of that theme, right? So that's my favorite. That's what I love to do. But, you know, we're in COVID now, everybody's shut down, everybody's online. So I created a, you know, a big group, a group for people to feel like they have a safe space. And I am in there diligently several times a day, just checking in and answering questions. And so I have a page and a group, and of course I have a school, a virtual school called Gentle Parenting Solutions. And in there, I have a course and I have workshops, and, you know, just trying to provide a variety of empowerment in many different forms.
Well, I liked what you just said there, was in reference to what I would call pattern recognition. You know, so in those themes, being able to pick up your patterns and understand what those patterns are and the meanings behind those patterns, recognizing the behaviors that draw to the picture that's being created and how that comes about. So I think that's amazing that you work with parents and help them to see the patterns and the themes that are running through their life, whether they're positive or negative themes. You also spoke about creating that big picture, that vision of, for me, is when I think about vision, I'm always thinking about the vision of what it is that we want to create, of the life that we want to create, and composing that, and then making whatever chaos that we have around us into that, creating, putting that into that picture, and how it comes to being. So for me, I thoroughly love vision focus. What is it that you want to create? How do you want to be in your family? How do you want to interact with you? How do you want to be as a parent? How do you want to interact with your children? How do you want your children to be? What's the essence of that? You know, and when we get to the essence of those feelings, so that because essentially that's what it is. We're trying to create a life where we enjoy and feel. We experience life according to how we feel, you know? So if we're not feeling great within our family, if we're not feeling great as a parent, if we're not feeling great connecting with our children, then that's the experience that we're going to have. So I very much think about the big picture vision, about where you want to be, what it is that you want to achieve, where you want to go with that. So that is awesome. So can you give us some examples of the results that you've been getting with your parents and children that you've been working with?
Some examples of the results we've been getting. Well, I just worked with a mom who said, you know, my kid was sweet, smart, and intelligent, does well at school, follows the rules, but at home, I can't even get my kiddo out of bed, can't get the teeth brushed without a full-blown meltdown, getting the socks and shoes on and out the door. And, you know, what's the problem? Is it me? Because at school, my child does amazingly well, but at home, it's just the basic routine is being challenged. And I have tried sticker charts. I have tried bribing. I have tried taking things away. I have tried explaining why we have to get out the door, you know, on and on and on. Like I could tell this mom, by the time she reached out to me, she had just tried everything. She'd read the book. She'd asked her friends. She did the YouTube research, you know, like, oh my goodness, mom, you know, they're exhausted. Moms are exhausted. I just feel that pain because been there, done that, right? We all have. So in this particular situation that I'm thinking of right now, I described to her what I think is really effective in coaching is that I like to give word pictures, because I think when you can explain a concept using a visual, A person can bring an image to mind and instantly have a lot of ideas quickly. So the visual I gave to this mom for this particular child, now I like to focus on working with strong-willed kids, moms raising strong-willed kids, because I get them so well. I'm a strong-willed child. Once a strong-willed, always a strong-willed. Right? Are you a strong-willed child?
Absolutely. Yeah. Had to learn the hard way, as some people would say, you know, because you're doing it your way. You're very much a strong-willed. Yeah, I get that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this little boy was a firstborn. So firstborn, strong-willed, male child. I was like, yeah, okay, right? So every child is different, but you can, like, you know, you sort of grab hold of certain circumstances and you get a feel for something really quick. So the visual I gave for this mom was, and now I don't know what it's like over in Australia, but in the US, we have bowling alleys. If right? And in these bowling alleys, there are lanes that are just for children.
Oh,
is it that? Do you have that?
I think they have that in the UK as well, where there's lanes just for children in the bowling alleys. And I'm not sure about Australia, but we definitely don't have it here in Jamaica. But yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I know Baeta, I don't know if I'm saying her name right, but anyway, she might know.
Yeah.
So in these bowling alleys, you have the aisle, right? You have the lane, and the bowling alley is going to go down the lane, and there's 10 pins there, right? And along the lane is a gutter, a gully, right? And if you don't throw the ball properly, the ball is going to go off the lane and boom, land in the gully, and you're not going to hit any pins. Nobody likes that, right? But these lanes for children, there is a bumper guard in the gully so that the ball can't go off the lane. Even if it starts to go there, that bumper guard is going to move the ball back on the lane. And so it's going to go down the lane and it's going to hit at least a pin or two, which everybody's going to love and celebrate. So this is the visual I gave to this mom, that for her strong-willed child who does well in school, but at home doesn't want to follow any of the most basic routines, this child needs mom and dad to be like the bumper guards. Just make sure the child doesn't fall off the lane, but has room to kind of wiggle and experiment and maneuver their way toward the goal that everybody wants, right? And so she loved this idea of giving her child some freedom, but still accomplishing her end game, which is getting the thing done, whether it was washing hands or getting dressed or going to the bathroom or getting pajamas on, or, you know, whatever the case may be. So in a nutshell, I use this visual to explain to this mom that there is a sweet spot where you're not letting your kiddo rule the house, run the roost, because they don't have the neurological development, experience, wisdom to handle that role of calling all the shots at home. And yet they need, especially a strong-willed child, they need the feeling that they get to make some decisions. So if mom and dad can know their perimeters and know how they're going to keep their child from falling off the edge, then the child has freedom, just like the ball going down the aisle, that it can meander and yet it's still going to hit those pins down.
Yes. I like that analogy. It also reminds me of an analogy that I believe that Beata uses, where she talks about a river and the parents being the banks of that river, providing that course and thingies that they get to flow. I'm not giving her credit, I'm not describing it very well, but giving them being able to flow down that river in the direction of the goal that they go into. But the banks is what just keeping them there, but not controlling. There's that that, like you said, they have the ability to choose, that like feel as if it's that they're having control of what it is that they're doing, but they're within the parameters of where you want them to go, the end goal. I think that is an awesome analogy to use, you know, both that and the being that buffer, you know, allowing them that freedom, but giving them, being that buffer, creating those boundaries, so to speak, but giving them the freedom to get the task done in their way, as long as it's done. You know, with it, you know, it's done. You do it in this time, within that time frame, the way that you want to do it, and that kind of thing. Because sometimes, you know, we get so caught up about right, it's do it now, do it my way, this is how I expect it to be done, get it done. And you create your own arguments and your own frustrations because they're not dancing, so to speak, to your tune, and it's step by step the way that you want it, kind of thing, or would expect it. But actually, if you allow them to develop their own way of doing that, there's a lot less frustration, and actually you see the growth, you see them grow in taking autonomy on what it is that they're doing, you know, being able to figure it out for themselves with, you know, in a safe and possible way. So that is awesome. A question did come in, which was, how do you advise moms to cater to each individual child and make it seem fair at the same time? Moms will say that they don't have enough time and energy to deal with each child's individual needs.
Well, in terms of time, if time is the issue, I don't have the time to address my children individually, then the root problem is reallocation of time, of creating a schedule that is more strategic to accomplish bigger goals. So like I homeschooled, right? So I have 4 children. I homeschooled them all. They're all different ages. And I literally, back in the day, took out clipboards and I broke the entire day down hour by hour by hour. And I allocated which child I would be with each hour of the day so that they knew they were going to get my undivided attention for 1 solid hour, right?
Yeah.
And if I was working with one on something that I really wanted to focus on, I would have the other children work together so that they were helping each other. Mm-hmm. So when I talk about reallocating your time, I'm talking about hour by hour, looking at your day and saying, okay, where can I make sure that each one of my children get 1 hour, half hour, whatever it is you can do of undivided attention, because they need it. They need it, right? So that's one thing. So, and the other part of that question is, how do you cater to each different child and make it seem fair? I remember being interviewed on a podcast, and the guy interviewing me was young. And he took offense at something I said, and I'll never forget it because I really stood my ground on it. I said that you can't treat all the children the same. Their strengths are different. Their weaknesses are different. Their personalities are different. Mm-hmm. Equal value does not mean same. Yeah. And that was the principle that I really wanted to get across in this particular interview, is that we are all, mom, dad, however many children you have, we are all of equal value. Mom and dad is not more valuable, more important than the youngest child. But our roles are different, our needs are different, our struggles and our strengths are different. And maybe one child is allowed to help themselves to the snack drawer because they have moderation. Mm-hmm. They just don't, they know when to stop. Mm-hmm. That child gets free access to the snack drawer. For the other child, it may blow their brain why does their sibling get free access to the snack drawer and they don't? Mm-hmm. it's not fair that one child should be hindered from something that's not a problem. They have earned the right to that privilege, and maybe the other child struggles. It doesn't mean that they're worse or not as good as. It's just we all have something different to work on. And so that's why I think each child must be addressed differently based on their strengths and weaknesses. They must understand that that does not make them of less value or less loved or less important. It's just that we're all unique. We all bring something different to the table, but collaboratively and collectively, we create a beautiful family identity because we all bring something unique to the table, but the way we parent them is different.
Okay, that's a really awesome answer. What just ran through my head though was that child who hasn't got access to the snack drawer. How do you explain the fact that, okay, your brother has got control and you haven't, that's why you can't go in there? Is that what you say? How do you deal with that, literally?
Right. And I gave you that example because I wanted to give you an example that like would really trigger somebody who hasn't thought about it, right? Because I love cultivating deep thinking about these things. Mm-hmm. So, okay, the 4-year-old, right, who doesn't have access, you're simply saying, let's say your older brother has access to the snack drawer because at dinner time, he's not so full that he can't eat the good, nutritious food. He's thinking about what's coming next. He's thinking about these things, and I see evidence of his maturity. And as you develop this maturity, you'll have access to it too. And I'm so excited, and I can't wait, and I'm watching to see it happen.
Beautiful. Beautiful explanation. And it's so very true. We develop skills to be able to do things at different times, at different ages, at different points. And just because this one can do it doesn't mean that you can do it at this particular point. You have to wait your time. That's called patience, learning, growing, all of those things.
Empowering thing about this is that sometimes it's the 4-year-old who gets access to the snack drawer and not the older one, mm-hmm. right? Because it's not about age, it's about maturity.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like different actions bring about different results, isn't it? And stuff. So, we have to get to that place where you show that you're able to deal with that in a sensible way, trustworthy, earn your stripes, basically, to go forward and do things. Not everybody can do things at the same time. Yeah, I think that is amazing. I saw a comment come in as well, which was I thought was brilliant. It was in reference to where you was talking about a child that says that child probably doesn't feel that they can make any decisions at school. So they behave there, and then they feel they need to exert all their control at home. Now, I very much know in my teaching life, there's been many times where we've had children that either were so well behaved at school, and it was like they kept it all together. And then as soon as they got out of the school gates, as soon as they got into their safe space with their parents, it was an explosion, just like, and just wildness and things and so forth, because they had spent the entire day containing all of their energy and thingy, trying to conform to what school is expecting them to be, to stay out of trouble, and waited until they got into their safe space before they could release that. And sometimes it's the other way around as well. Sometimes, they are so good at home, so good for their parents, just do everything like just on as requested, your model child, and then get into school and they're a complete nightmare. They're the worst, in all sorts. And it's, again, the reverse situation, where at home, there's so much control that they don't have any freedom, or they don't feel that they can be themselves. And then at school, it's like, well, you're not my parent, you know, things, you can't tell me anything, I'm doing what I'm doing, you know. So it's an interesting behavior pattern to observe in that one as well. And again, the following response to that was, so often parents do not believe their child could behave the way that they do at school because they would not dream of being disrespectful at home. Do you see the same thing that I was just saying? And those that are perfect at school play at home. So how do we work those out? How do we understand what is going on for our child when it's like that?
I think it comes back to the analogy of the bowling alley for kids. Yeah. You have to offer them freedom with limits.
Yeah. Both at home and at school. We have to try. I was going to say, we have to try and get more teachers to kind of recognize that as well. Now, I know it's a lot more difficult when you have a class of 20 or 30 children and trying to allow children to have some freedom and some autonomy in their learning. It becomes a much more skilled practice to be able to do that. But it is possible. It is possible to do that. You know, again, it's, as you say, coming back to allocating time and working out your dynamics in your classroom and being able to, you know, so as a teacher, so if we can get that concept, both for parents and both for teachers, to recognize that we need to give our children those boundaries, that buffers, the cushioning, that freedom or flexibility in their learning, I think we'd get a lot further in these volatile children that either blow up at home or blow up at school kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that being an authority does not mean a constricting control that eliminates freedom. Mm-hmm. Authority and leadership there is good authority, good leadership, and there is poor authority in poor leadership. Yeah. And I think that a huge problem is when we don't clearly define our terms. And so we talk and people run with a thought and go off in their own direction and maybe reject what's being said because their understanding of the word is different, right? Or their understanding of the word is based on their own upbringing, their own trauma, their own childhood experiences. So when I talk about I'm talking about leadership, whether it's the teacher at school, whether it's a parent at home, guiding, controlling, authority does not mean complete restriction where a child has no freedom to express themselves or make decisions. That's not what I'm talking about. On any one of these fronts, on any one of these examples, children need to explore, right? We all know that. They need to be able to make mistakes and learn from their mistakes. They need to be forgiven and unconditional love and encouragement to get back up and try again, to not be compared to anybody else, and to not made to feel like a failure, right? I think now more than ever, even though we've got a lot of mixed messaging going on in social media, I think we all on some level understand now more than ever the need to accept people for who they are and how they are. But you can go off the deep end by losing your leadership in the process if you're not careful.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think now more than ever, you're right, we do need to accept people for who they are, but also to recognize that, you know, if we want to make changes, that change begins with us. If we want to empower people, then it starts by empowering ourselves, you know. Lead by example, be the change, be that it is that you want to occur, you know, show and model behaviors, model what it is that you want to be that change. Yeah.
Yeah, and that means it needs to be really authentic, right? So we, you know, it's easy to, and this is something we see in social media. It's easy to create a presence, a look, a brand, right? And yet, if it's not consistent, if it's not through and through, if it's not who you are when the doors are closed and nobody else is watching, our kids sniff it out in a heartbeat. They're so smart and they're so intuitive. They catch on quick.
Yeah, most definitely. You know, they feed off of our essence. That's not something that, you know, many a times they learn so many things consciously or unconsciously, you know, and a lot of our behaviors, we're feeding to them on an unconscious level. You know, gone are the days, I don't even think whether these days were ever in place, but gone are the days where it was, you know, do as I say and not as I do, you know. That doesn't work. I don't think it ever did work. You know, I don't think it ever did work, but that doesn't work. You know, we have to, because they will call us out. This is the thing. They will call us out on our BS. In time, they will call us out. Whether and I wouldn't even say in time. I've seen little babies, little children. I've seen video clips of little children calling out their parents on certain things that they shouldn't be doing, and they think because it's a young child that they're unaware of it. But it's like, you have to be conscious of the messages that you are sending to your kids. That's right. Have to be conscious of the behaviors that you are modeling to your children. You know, and
children also have a high sense of they have their own sense of justice, right? So we hear our kids say, "That's not fair," right? You're not being fair. That justice, that scale of justice is highly tuned for a child. Now, their sense of justice may be skewed, you know, geared toward what they want and not based on what's really fair or right. But we can use that. We can take that sense of justice, of fairness that's born in them, that's intuitive, and use that to nurture fairness, kindness, intelligence, consideration, self-awareness. Like we can leverage that.
Yeah, we definitely can leverage that without a doubt. So another question popped in. So do you say that to the mums that you work with, in that they need to change and the children will follow, or do you mainly give them tools to use with kids?
What I try to do, and I have to use my hands for this, I try to take where mom is, where she is, what the relationship looks like now for her as she describes it, and the child, the way I don't work one-on-one with the child, I work with mom, because I want her to look like the problem solver and leader, not me. So I don't get in that relationship. But where she is, where she describes her child is, and I try to help them both take micro steps closer toward being on the same page and celebrate. When I say micro steps, any little progress, no matter how small it is celebratory, because it shows the potential for the next micro step toward closeness and being on the same page. And so every time I work with mom, I'm helping her week by week take one little micro step for her, help her child, so that they, over the course of time, are on the same page.
That's awesome. That is it. That is, and in those little micro steps becomes the aha moments. So that's where the change occurs as well. You know, and some, they don't even know that they're changing. They're just making those micro steps, learning something new about themselves and how to do things, and how it, that like the tool that you gift, it shifts their consciousness as well. It kind of shifts the paradigm, the way that they think and think about a situation or behave in a situation. And that's where the change is occurring. So it happens anyway.
Indeed. If it's not genuine, if the micro steps are not genuine aha moments where everybody wins, it's not going to last, right? Yeah. And so that's the problem that ultimately leads a mom to pick up the phone and schedule a session with me is that she's tried everything. At best, it's got short-term results before it resorts right back to the way it was again. So to your point, when I'm working with a mom and helping her tweak her words or her actions or her systems, the goal is to have genuine aha moments and enlightenment and empowerment for not only her, but for her child, so that they can't help but make permanent growth.
Yeah, awesome. That is awesome. What in your opinion is the most critical or foundational seed to lay with a parent and a child? Like, what's your starting point, would you say?
Awareness, self-awareness, and awareness of her child's point of view, right? Mm-hmm. So we talk about like worldview. We base our decisions on our value system and our worldview. We make decisions every single moment of every single day based on a preset value system and worldview, right? And so mom has her worldview value system that she's making. She may not even be aware of her value system, but she's operating on that value system and that worldview, whether she knows it or not. So creating awareness, helping her become aware of why she does what she does. What is she exuding? What is she saying in nonverbal ways that maybe is being communicated to her child she's not even aware of? Maybe her own anxiety or depression or overwhelm or fatigue or lack of self-care is sending a message to her child that's creating a dynamic that's a disconnect. Yeah. And as she becomes self-aware, she's going to become in alignment of who she wants to be. She is going to make changes, tweaks that help her align with her sense of strength and power and clarity. And as she does that, it can't help but have an impact on this little child who's kind of like, just spiraling and feeling and experimenting and all over the place. That child is going to begin to resonate with mom stepping into her empowerment of who she is, her clarity. So that's one side, right? And then there's the fact that a child's brain is immature and very scientific and exploring and testing. And that's what a little child is supposed to do. And it's mom's job to be aware of the neuroscience of her child's brain so that she can begin to train the brain of her child to understand that every time I'm going to use a ridiculous example, but just one that's like really obvious. A child is curious about a flame, a candle, right? The little light on a candle, and they're going to want to touch the flame, but it gets hot, and that pain triggers the brain. Maybe it takes 2-3 times max. That child's brain makes that neural connection. That fire means pain for my finger. I'm not going to do it again. And you don't have to like threaten, bribe. That child's brain is wired for survival, wired for pleasure, to seek pleasure and avoid pain. And so we can use, not that we're going to use like a flame, right? I'm just using an example, but my point being, we can use pleasure and discomfort and repetition and, all kinds of different tools to train a child's brain to make neural connections when they do certain things. So between mom stepping into her confidence and power and clarity, getting consistent, being self-aware, and being aware of the fact that she is helping to train her child's brain, it's like the lights just go off. It gets simple. It's not always easy, but it gets simple.
Yeah, and sometimes the simplest things are the hardest things to do, as you say. It's not always easy, but it is simple. And I think that is a fantastic description of that foundational seeds. It starts with awareness. Everything starts from awareness. Change begins with awareness. We have to know where we're currently at. We have to be aware of where we're at. We have to be aware of our thought patterns. We have to be aware of our beliefs and the things that are stopping us or getting in the way of making the changes that we want to do. So it starts with awareness. So I think that is a fantastic foundational seed to sow in our parents, is to let them recognize that. Let's be aware of what's going on. Let's be aware of how you function. Let's be aware of your behavior patterns. Let's be aware of your triggers. Let's be aware of the explosives that are within you. You know, let's be aware of all of these things, because then we can begin to make the changes that we desire according to the big picture vision of who it is that we want to be, or begin to create that big picture vision. You know, so many times we're just stuck in the mire of all of the day-to-day of what's going on, and just trying to, you know, and I do feel that when we get stuck like that, that we miss so much of life. You know, time can just fly by, and before you know it, your 1-year-old is 3, then your 3 is 5, and then you're 5. Just the other day, my child turned 21, and it was just like that. She's 21. Like, it just gone, you know. And for me, that from the age of 15 just went so quick, you know. It's like, and so if you're in that day to day and just stuck into that, before you know it, your child is an adult, and you've created another version of yourself with all of your dramas and issues and anxieties and fears and negativity, all within it, all intertwined in there, because we wasn't aware of what it is that we were doing.
Yeah, and one of the things that I thought of as you were just talking right now is something that I didn't know as a young first-time mom, even though I promised myself I wasn't going to make the same mistakes my parents made with me, is I did not know, and it makes so much sense now, that the brain is wired to recreate the dynamic that never got resolved, so that it can get a second chance at resolving the problem. So we actually pick, project, and provoke the trauma of our own childhood, so we get a second shot at fixing it.
Yeah. And
if you're not aware of that, and if you don't know how to fix it, you get stuck in a loop.
That's good. Getting a second shot at fixing it. So you're repeating the patterns. I mean, it's along those lines of, you know, that the universe will keep presenting to you in different formats the same lesson until you learn it. It'll still keep beating you on the head with the same lesson in different ways until you learn it, and that kind of thing. So is that what you kind of like what you're saying? It's that pattern repeating itself until you break the code, basically.
Yeah, the brain is really, really wanting to resolve trauma. So the best thing we can do as parents is to face our trauma, like look at it eyeball to eyeball, label it, identify it, process it, just like you do food, right? You chew it up, you digest it, you keep the good, and you let the bad go right out in the toilet. And that's the way you process trauma. There's something good to be.
Fantastic analogy.
Just keeping it real. Sometimes we're so hurt by our trauma that we just want to close the door on it. But that is like food that sits undigested in the gut. It creates brand new discomfort. You have to digest it. And part of that digestion is that there's something valuable to extract from it, right? And so in a way, we can look at our own childhood traumas and look for the good that we can extract from that and release the rest. And then take the good, right? That this is for most of us who are in some sort of profession or some sort of life mission, we have done just that. We have looked at our own experiences, learned what we could from that experience, and now want to offer that and share that with others. And that becomes like a huge blessing personally and professionally and for the world at large when you can do that. But we all have to do that on some micro level or macro level, is digest the trauma so that we don't keep repeating it.
Yeah. And like you said, you know, if we don't digest the trauma, if we just keep pushing it down, burying things, that's what we're used to doing, burying things until we completely forget about it. But what's building is toxicity. What's building is all of the horrible fumes and gases of that old crusty food that's not been digested, finding its way to bubble its way back out in some form or another. And if it's not coming out in a behavior or an action or a feeling, it's coming out in dis-ease, in migraines, in stomach upset, in pain, in condition, you know, low energy, low immune systems, you know, live in fear. It comes out in so many ways, and all of those negative experiences often can be attributed back to the crap you didn't digest, the stuff that's still lodged in your gut, you know, that's deep in your intestines, you know what I mean? And we need to flush those out, clear it away. You know, and sometimes it's not always necessary to, you know, relive the experience, but you don't need to relive the experience, but you're just taking the learning from it, you know, understanding that learning. Everything, there's a learning in there. There's always a lesson. I don't know, I'm getting a background noise coming in through. I don't know if you can hear that. Are you picking that up? No, okay, that's fine. It's just that I'm hearing something on my side in that sense. I was just checking. So we do have to be aware of the rubbish that we've not digested, and begin that process and let it go, let it free, let it flow freely. And so I think that's an awesome message. And once again, another great analogy. You've got some amazing analogies that really work and really explain, gives you a very clear picture of what it is, of the message and the concept that you're putting across. Those analogies are fantastic.
Yeah, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and it really is true.
And it really is true. Yeah. It really is true, because I think that those analogies you've given have honed in on so many good points, you know, from the digesting and getting rid of, taking the good out and stuff, to the buffer, or the lane buffer, and allowing that freedom and autonomy for our children to be able to expand and grow. I think that has, you know, those in itself are amazing nuggets of information for our audience to take away and to begin to apply, for themselves little bit by little bit, step by step, you know, to not be overwhelmed by it all, but know that we're taking one step at a time to move forward and create, shift those traumas and dislodge those things. This background noise is getting louder for me. So if you could just give me 1 second, I'm going to close what I think where it might be coming from. 1 second. Brilliant. Sorry about that. But yeah, it was distracting me as well. So that's why I just needed to move that. So what's your big vision? I know we're just coming up to our hour, so we're going to look to try and wrap this up now. But what is your big vision? What is it that you would like to see occur for the work that you do, or just generally speaking?
I really have a vision of reaching hundreds of thousands of families with encouragement, support, insights. I just want to share with as many people as I can. And, you know, it's not about me. It's not about my business. It's just about creating health, wellness, goodness, life. You know, we all are really struggling right now globally. And if we don't all do as much as we can, I couldn't live with that. So my vision is a global one. I just want to accomplish as much as I can, as big as I can, for as long as I can, because tomorrow's not guaranteed, you know, there's no promise. So
that's very true. And I think that's why I was drawn to you, because I know that your vision is bigger than yourself, that it is very much what in alignment with my vision, which is to transform a generation. You know, and transforming a generation means reaching as many people as possible, you know, to begin that process of recognizing that the power is within us, that there is so much that we can create, you know, if we tap into it. And it's an everyday journey. Every day I am continuing to try to tap into my inner power to allow me to make the changes and to make the creations, you know, create what it is that I want in my life and for my children and so forth. So I know it's a daily job, daily renewal, daily task, daily effort. You know, each day you wake up and you recognize that you're going to make that effort, make that journey, work with yourself to know about the transformation that you are doing for yourself, for your family, for your children. So I completely resonate with that vision, you know, because I just think how amazing would it be when we have all of our parents and children stepping into their power, you know, being magnificent creators of their life, living the life of their designs. And can you imagine what this world would be like if we have this, you know, generation of free thinkers, of people being able to just manifest all of the wonderful things that they desire in their life, knowing that they have the ability to do that, have the strength and the character and the knowledge and the know-how and so forth. We've been able to just pull it all together to go and do that. The belief that they'd be able to do it. That, to me, is an awesome vision. And that is my vision. And I'm drawn to people that are doing that work and doing the similar things. You know, like I said, they're maybe using different modalities, different approaches to get to that same end goal of empowerment and enlightenment, creating that whole world vision of these magnificent, fantastic children and parents. So yeah, that's what the vision, that's what the mission of visionary parenting is about, is, you know, reaching as many people so that we can sow these seeds of success, you know, all around the world in different places, and all of those peoples, and celebrating and speaking to all of those peoples doing that journey. So thank you so much, Loyla, for joining us, for sharing your story and the work that you do. It has been an amazing conversation with some, like I said, some fantastic nuggets of wisdom and insights that parents can, you know, can take away and begin to apply to themselves and, you know, their families. So what is the name of your group?
So if anybody would like to know more about what I'm doing or be able to, you know, reach out to me, again, my name is Loyla Louvis, parenting strategist and life coach. My business is Mothers in Training. I have a website, mothersintraining.org. I'm also on Facebook. I have a fairly active chatty group called Parenting Tips for Strong-Willed Kids. And it's a lovely place to connect. We have so much going on in there. And I have a website, like a virtual school called gentleparentingsolutions.com. So there's lots going on, lots of places to find me. And I'm actually going to drop you a link right now in the chat of a it's called 50 Ways Moms Get Kids to Listen. It's a 17-page guide of different ways that moms have discovered their kids will listen.
That is brilliant. That is brilliant. We'll make sure that that gets shared and allowing parents to get hold of that. That is fantastic. We've also dropped in the comment section your Mothers in Training page, and we'll also put further links into the chat for people to reach out and connect with you as well, because that would be awesome. So once again, Lola, thank you very, very much for your time, your energy, your insights and wisdom. It has been an absolute blessing and a fantastic conversation. We are over the hour now, so I just want to let everybody not take up any more of their time, but it's been an amazing conversation. So thank you very much, everybody. Now, before I let everyone go, just stay tuned, because our next session in 2 weeks' time is going to be a very special episode. I'll be letting you know more about that when that is coming. I'm not going to reveal everything right here, but stay in tune. Look out for what's coming up. We have got a special event coming up in the real near future with some amazing work happening in this event. So keep your ears tuned for what's coming up next with Visionary Parenting. And once again, we are here as parents. We are our children's first and continuous teachers. And we must recognize the impact that we have on our children's beliefs about themselves, about others, and about the world around them, whether that's positive or negative. And so let's be the positive, and let's show our children how to be the best version of themselves by being the best version of ourselves as parents. And Visionary Parenting is here to help you do that. And what's coming up next will help you even more achieve that goal. So once again, thank you everybody for tuning in. It has been a fantastic episode, and look out for what's coming up next. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Many, many thanks. Bye-bye and blessings.